Shabbat Shalom. And now Korah, the son of Isar, the son of Kohas, the son of Levi, with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the sons of Peles, the sons of Reuben, took action. And they rose up before Moses, together with some of the sons of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, chosen in the assembly, men of renown. This is what the Bible says in Numbers 16, verses 1 and 2. This parsha is the 38th parsha called Korach, which refers to Korah, who rebelled against Moses. This 38th parsha covers Numbers 16 verse 1 to Numbers 18 verse 32. There are basically 5 topics in this parsha, Korach, but it mainly deals with rebellion against the Father, what rebellion actually is and what it means for us today. So let's talk about this parsha, Korach, and see what the Father teaches us today. This week's Torah portion is named after a specific man from the camp of the Levites, the camp of the priests. Although Korah was a Levite, he was not of the priestly line. Nevertheless, Korah was an honored and a learned, wealthy and established Levite, a Kohathite and a first cousin of Moses and Aaron. As a descendant of Kohath, Korah's job was to help to transport the sacred objects of the tabernacle, the Ark of the Covenant, the altar, the menorah, and so on. But then something happens. Things changed, and most people find it very difficult to accept change, and so it was for Korah. First, Korah saw Yahweh kill a man for gathering sticks on Shabbat. Then Yahweh sentenced his generation to death in the wilderness because of the 10 spies. And when Yahweh commanded them all to put blue cords on their clothes, he probably thought, "You have lost your way. You have gone too far. This is not my God. This has to stop." In other words, the circumstances were ripe for rebellion against the leadership, the authority of Moses. And then out of frustration, Korah decides that he is not satisfied with the service assigned to him. He wants to become a priest. And he argues that the entire community has an equal right to the priesthood. This is already an important lesson for many of us today, because everyone has their own calling, their own role. And of course, we all want to be leaders. But if this is not our calling, do not try to become a leader, because it will not work. It will not yield us any fruit. The fruit comes at the moment that we take up our calling for which Yahweh created us. It seems that Korah had no problem getting support, because we see 3 groups that rebelled. First, Korah. Second, Dathan and Abiram from the embittered tribe of Reuben, who lost his first birthright because he slept with Jacob's concubine. And thirdly, 250 leaders. These 250 leaders from different tribes and probably firstborn lost their priestly rights as firstborn after the golden calf, when Yahweh gave the rights to the Levites. In other words, the whole group was jealous, frustrated, discontented, and on the verge of rebellion. And they assembled together against Moses and Aaron, and they said to them, "You have gone far enough, for all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is in their midst. So why do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" And when Moses heard this, he fell on his face. How humble can you be as a leader of millions of people? Moses didn't attack them. He didn't defend himself. Moses, he fell on his face. The word face is panim in Hebrew, which has many different meanings. It can also be translated as divine presence, character, or identity. Moses falls down before Yahweh, and he is essentially saying, "Father, I submit myself, my identity, my character to you. If you want Korah to be the leader, go ahead, and I will follow your decision." Moses saw himself as a servant of Yahweh, a position he thought he did not deserve. And then Moses does something remarkable. The leaders were not satisfied with the position that Yahweh had given them. They wanted the priesthood. They wanted to fulfill the priestly duties. And here Moses encourages the entire group to make a censer, a vessel in which incense is burnt. Do this, take censers for yourselves, Korah, and all your company, and put fire in them, and lay incense upon them in the presence of the Lord tomorrow. And the man whom the Lord chooses shall be the one who is holy. But wait a minute, only a priest was allowed to offer incense in a censer. And we know what happened to Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron. They were the real priests, but Yahweh killed them because they did not obey his specific instructions, Torah. Moses then invites the congregation into the tabernacle of Yahweh, the tent of meeting. The Hebrew word for the tabernacle of the Lord is Mishkan. Then something fascinating happens. The group doesn't want to come up, doesn't want to go up to the tabernacle. We will not come up. It's enough. It's enough that you brought us up out of the land of flowing with milk and honey to have us die in the wilderness, but you would also lord it over us. Moses becomes angry, but he continues to encourage them. You and all your company be present before the Lord tomorrow. Both you and they, along with Aaron, each of you take his fire pan and put incense on it. And each of you bring his censer before the Lord. 250 fire pans. Also you and Aaron shall each bring his fire pan. But wait a minute. The group wasn't willing to come up, right, to the tabernacle of Yahweh, were they? Where did they offer the incense to Yahweh? So they each took his own censer and put fire on it and laid incense on it. And they stood at the doorway of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Thus Korah assembled all the congregation against them at the doorway of the tent of meeting. And the glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation. But wait, were they using the tabernacle of Yahweh? They didn't want to come up there, did they? And then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the congregation, saying, Get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Tents is Mishkan in Hebrew, right? Translated as tabernacle of the Lord. But here it clearly says the tents, the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. But wait, does this mean that the group actually built their own Mishkan, their own tabernacle? Yes. Yahweh warned Moses and his congregation to distance themselves from the tabernacle that Korah and his followers had set up. A false tabernacle, their own tabernacle, not Yahweh's. Yahweh is angry, and not for the first time. We already know that when he gets angry, it will not end with mercy or a warning. And he will destroy those who turn against his commandments, his Torah. And as he finished speaking all these words, the ground that was under them split open, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and all the men who belonged to Korah with their possessions. So they, and all that belonged to them, went down alive to Sheol, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. Can you imagine that the earth suddenly opening up and swallowing all these people? And the question is, do we believe that this has happened? Because if we don't believe this, we are not ready for this final season, because it's going to happen again. In the book of Revelation, we see that the earth will come to the aid of the woman Israel when Satan tries to destroy her. And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so that he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon poured out of his mouth. Anyway, Korah and his followers died in Sheol, the same place that Satan will die, and the 250 people were consumed by fire. What I find interesting is that the Bible specifically states that they died with their possessions. In other words, with the things that were important to them. Probably their money and their cell phone and so on. But on the next day, all the congregation of the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You are the ones who have caused the death of the Lord's people." The congregation, the ecclesia of a few million people, blamed Moses for the death of the Lord's people. And here the story repeats itself. Yahweh gets angry. Moses and Aaron try to defend the people through atonement, but unfortunately, 14,700 people are struck by the eternal fire of the Lord. And then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and get from them a rod for each father's household, 12 rods from all their leaders. According to their father's households, you shall write each name on his rod." Rod is mate in Hebrew, translated as tribe or branch. And the only tribe that bears fruit is the one that is chosen by Jeshua and connected to him. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it, so that it may bear more fruit. When we practice the truth, when we share Torah, we bear fruit, because we walk in his light and light his menorah. But why do we need to practice and share his truth, his Torah today? Isaiah tells us when he describes the millennium. For the Torah will go forth from Zion and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Unfortunately, we are a generation of quitters. When the going gets tough, we give up and we hide. Did Paul give up? No. Did the disciples give up? No. Did John the Baptist give up? Noah, Moses, Joseph, Caleb, Joshua, Sarah, Ruth, Esther, Rahab? Did Jeshua give up? When we as believers gather together, we boldly say or sing, "I can do all that he has called me to through Jesus Christ, who strengthens and empowers me." But as soon as we walk out of the door, most of us give up, afraid to share Torah that he has called us to. And then Yahweh commands them to bring each rod to the tent of meeting before the testimony. And there he will meet them. The testimony, in my opinion, is the Ark of the Covenant. And you shall put the mercy seat on top of the Ark. And in the Ark you shall put the testimony, which I will give to you. And it will come about that the rod of the man whom I choose will sprout. Yahweh has the power to bring forth fruit from something that is dead, a dead piece of wood. Anyway, Aaron's rod blossomed because Aaron was his chosen leader for the priests. The rod symbolizes the promise of a fruitful and lasting priestly line in the millennium. So why is Aaron's rod kept in the Ark of the Covenant as a witness to us? Sadly, most believers today are doing away with Torah because they are listening to the enemy instead of Yahweh. But there is a reason why there are 3 elements in the Ark of the Covenant. There is a reason. The Ark of the Covenant contains the law of Yahweh, the Torah, the 2 tablets of stone. And there is a reason that the Ark contains a pot of manna, his word. And a reason that the Ark contains Aaron's rod, to become his priest, to be set apart, to be holy, and to reign with Jeshua in the millennium. And the question now is, and this is the question for all of us today, what is the Father telling us through the story of Korah, and what can we learn from it? First, the process of Korah's rebellion is the same pattern as that of Lucifer's rebellion in heaven, born out of a focus on self and a desire of self-exaltation. The Apostle Paul says that believers in the last days, this season, will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, arrogant, proud, unholy, malicious gossips, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. And second, This is the most important lesson for us today. Most believers today are in rebellion. For rebellion is as the sin of divination, and insubordination is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he also rejected you from being king. These are strong words, right? Rebellion is the sin of witchcraft. Stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. But if you refuse and rebel, you will be devoured by the sword. Truly, the mouth of the Lord has spoken. Rebellion is meri in Hebrew, which is translated as rebellion, but especially bitterness. This is where rebellion begins, with bitterness. Rebellion is a spirit, a dangerous one, because if we ask an average believer, he or she will not associate rebellion with his or her life, because it sounds negative, and it is. But rebellion is a deceptive spirit that hides like a thief in the night and is difficult to recognize. When we follow man-made feasts, man-made days, man-made doctrines, and we are not aware that we are doing wrong, we are rebellious and under the influence of the enemy. And this is why Torah, and especially today's portion, is important for us today in this final season. Because we live in a season of lawlessness, where people follow man and not Yahweh. Korah wants to throw Moses and Aaron out, just as people today throw out the law of Yahweh, the Old Testament and his feast and the Shabbat and many other things. We live in a time of the end-time church of Laodicea. If something doesn't please us, we give up, we hide, we don't listen, or we throw it out. Laodicea in Greek is Laodikia, is translated as justice of people, the people who rule, or the rights of people. Laodicea is the church of the opinions of the people, or rights. I have the right, and it's my opinion. It's no wonder that there are 45,000 denominations, because people today create their own God, just as in ancient times. A God who fits into our lives, into our own opinions. We proudly call this reformation, but Yahweh never called for reformation. He called for transformation. Joshua called the end-time church a lukewarm church because of the mixture. A church that makes the great mistake of seeing material blessings as the barometer of Yahweh's favor. The biggest problem with Laodicea, the church today, is not only its materialism or lukewarmness. The main problem is that they don't know who she is. They are completely unaware of their problem. They are blind to their own spiritual state, as we see with Korah. Korah, Korah in Hebrew, means bald, which is very interesting. Why? You are the sons of the Lord of your God. You shall not cut yourselves nor shave your forehead for the sake of the dead. How many believers in this final season have to have the love to jump on a stage and to share Torah, to share it on their social media, to share it whenever they get the chance? The Bible calls it rebellion if we don't do it. Witchcraft, stubbornness, it is the spirit of disobedience. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. This Torah portion, Korach, is completely connected to Joshua's end-time call to come out of her. Korah truly believed he was doing the right thing, and he was willing to show the whole ecclesia, the whole congregation, that he could bring incense to Yahweh without being a priest, without being set apart. Korah was truly convinced that his deception was a divine act and that he did nothing wrong, that he honored Yahweh, gave him the honor by bringing in the incense. Don't we see this happening in most churches too? No more law but grace, Christmas, Easter, Sunday. Believers really think that they are all doing the right thing. Christmas is a good example. We honor Jesus' birth. What could be wrong with that? Do we get the point? Yahweh wants to follow His instructions, His Torah, not those of man, no matter what good intentions are behind it. Christmas, Easter, Sunday, Halloween, it's all pagan and it's not allowed. Not allowed according to His law, His Torah, His instructions. Many believers today have set up their own tabernacle, created a God based on their own ideas. They do not keep His feasts, Shabbat, etc. because of lack of knowledge. But if the Lord brings about an entire new thing, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that is theirs, and they descend alive into Sheol, then you will understand that these men have spurned the Lord. Spurned the Lord is naas in Hebrew, which is translated as provoking or blaspheming. Where did they go? They went into Sheol, translated as pit, the underworld or hell. Do not think that these Torah instructions are old and not for us today, because they all are. And therefore we must study them to know where to go and what to do when it happens to us. That which has been is that which will be, and that which has been done is that which will be done. So there's nothing new under the sun. Remember, Korah was an honest, sincere believer. He was from the camp of the Levites, a servant within the true faith. Not a Gentile, not a pagan, but a foolish virgin, if you will. They were all brothers and sisters in the Messiah, but they preferred to establish their own version of Yahweh, and they honestly thought they were doing nothing wrong. Today we have about 45,000 denominations, different tents. Any idea what will happen to them? They are all in the outer court of the tabernacle, and according to Joshua, they will be destroyed. Leave out the court which is outside the temple and do not measure it, for it has been given to the nations, and they will tread underfoot the holy city for 42 months. But the two wings of the great eagle were given to the woman, so that she could fly into the wilderness to her place, where she was nourished for a time, times and half a time, from the presence of the serpent. And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so that he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon, poured out of his mouth. In this case, the earth helped the woman, Israel, which will happen in this final season. But wait a minute, what does water symbolize in Scripture? People. And he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the serpent poured water, people, like a river out of his mouth after the woman, Israel. How many believers are against Israel today? Could it be that the enemy, the dragon, is using them, influencing them, deceiving them, and pouring these people out of his mouth to attack Israel? Anyway, there will be a group of believers who act as if they follow Torah, but in their hearts they are not. They follow a checklist, not Torah. They don't understand Torah, they don't study Torah, and Paul warns us, as always. For some men straying from these things have turned aside to fruitless discussion, wanting to be teachers of Torah, even though they do not understand either what they are saying or the matters about which they make confident assertions. This is indeed what we see happening today. People come to Shabbat, but they do not listen, because they are still influenced by a religious spirit. They want to, but they cannot. They are spiritually asleep and under the influence of the world, the enemy, and therefore no kingdom fruit. And the question now, and this is why we teach and share Torah every single week, is whether in this final season we will have real leaders, set-apart priests who will help his sheep. Which soldiers have the courage, the faith, to climb on the soapbox and defend and share Torah? Suffer hardship with me as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. No soldier in active service entangles himself in the affairs of everyday life, so that he may please the one who enlisted him as a soldier. Paul is clear. We are soldiers for our Messiah. That's our mission, to be set apart as priests, not to get caught up in the affairs of our everyday life. A soldier in active service is strateou in Greek and is translated as, and this is interesting, leading soldiers to war or to battle. We all need to get on our soapbox and be a good soldier for our King, to be set apart, to become his priest, and to stop being a Korah. But to do what we need to do, come out of her, my people. Torah is amazing. It's our instruction book, right? And Torah would not be called an instruction book without giving his instructions. And this Torah reading proves that and gives us a great instruction. In 3 weeks, the Torah teaches us the following Bible verse. And the sons of Korah, however, did not die. This is interesting because we have not read what happened to the 3 sons of Korah. It seems that when the earth opened its mouth and swallowed Korah, along with all who had joined him, Korah's 3 sons were spared and they did not die. So who were these mysterious sons, and what is the powerful, eternal lesson that they teach us today? The sons of Korah, Asir, Elkanah, and Abiasaph, these are the families of the Korahites. It seems that they were part of their father's group, but they broke away. They came out of her, my people, at the right time, before Yahweh destroyed their father and his followers. The sons of Korah could have followed in Korah's footsteps. They could have made a scene and demanded more. They could have built their own tabernacle, but instead they chose to walk out. Interestingly, these 3 men made significant contributions to the book of Psalms. Most of us think of David, right, when we listen to the Psalms. But 11 of the 150 Psalms are composed by the sons of Korah. 11 of the 150 Psalms that have been preserved for us are attributed to the sons of Korah. And in those Psalms, we catch a glimpse of what distinguishes these men from their ancestor. These simple words, the sons of Korah, however, did not die, teach us today that we must come out of her, my people, or we will suffer his consequences just as Korah did. Have a blessed Torah study week. Shabbat Shalom.